Hello, this is part 6 of the pivot tables. I would want us to check on what we call the subtotals and the grand totals. So before we actually do continue, make sure you actually subscribe to my YouTube channel and also follow me on my X account so that we can build one of the largest data analysis platforms together. Now in this point, suppose we have actually obtained the sum of amount, that's the total amount by product. So we can actually get to the pivot tables so that we can actually do that. That's amount by product. So total amount by product, just like that. Now suppose we actually do have something like this. So we'll actually realize that this is apple is actually a fruit. Yes. So you can actually check that on this point here. Apple is actually a fruit. And you'll also realize that banana is a fruit. You would also check that broccoli is a vegetable. Then carrots is also a vegetable. So I would want us to insert the category into these rows too. So insert the category into the row like that. Now you will actually check that it's not exactly what we actually wanted, because we wanted the row to be at the top. This is actually something that we actually expected, but not exactly what we wanted, because in this point here, we expected to have the fruit, so that inside the fruit, we have the apples, we have the bananas, we have the mangoes and the oranges. And inside the vegetables, we have the beans, broccoli, and the carrots. So what do we actually do? So what we actually do in that point is you have to click on the category like that, then you shift it up like that, then you actually drop. Just like that. Now you can actually check that it's now what we expected. So we have the fruit, then the list of the fruits, then you have the vegetables, then the list for the vegetables. Yes. So this is now what will make us understand about the grand totals and the subtotals. So remember, this is actually the sum of amount by the product, but we have also dragged the category into the rows so that the category is actually on top of the product. So we have the category first, which is actually the fruit, then you have the products, then the category, then we also have the products. So that's basically how you can interpret this. So category, products, category, products. So sum of amount by category and product. So by category and product. So you can actually check that this drag field here, which is actually the row, is actually containing two fields, which is actually the category field and the product field. So this is basically what we call the multi-level field, because it has more than one, so multi-level. Now allow me in this case here to show you what we actually do mean by the subtotal and the total. So if you sum all these amounts for the fruits, you will actually get this one up here. That's 693,069. So the total for all these fruits, which is actually the apples, the bananas, the mangoes, and the oranges, will actually get you 693,069. The total for all these three vegetables here will actually get you 336665. So basically 693,069 and that 36665 are what you call the subtotals. So those two are actually the subtotals. So we have the subtotal for the fruits and also the subtotal for the vegetables. So those two subtotals added will actually get us the grand total. So if you add this one here for the fruits and this one here for the vegetables, it will basically get you this one here, which is actually 102.9734 US dollars. That's actually the grand total. The grand total is actually the summation of all the subtotals that we have. So in this point here, you can actually click on the design tab. If you click on the design tab there, we have what you call the subtotals. So sometimes you might actually want to hide these subtotals. So you can come to this point here, click on the subtotals, then do not show subtotals. So you click on it like that, and you can now see that the subtotals have disappeared, and what you actually have is the grand total. So this is the grand total. The subtotal for the fruits is missing, and the subtotal for the vegetables is also missing. On this point too, you can check that you can have the subtotals at the bottom of every group. So in this point here, you can check that this is my group. This is actually the group for the fruits. But we have the subtotal on top. We have the fruit on top of these items here. So if you actually want to have the subtotal at the bottom of each group, then you can actually come to this point here, then you click on show all subtotals at the bottom of each group. Now you can actually check that I have the items here, then I have fruit total, which is actually 693,069. Then for the vegetables, I have them here. Yes, then the subtotal, I have the subtotal there. So this is what you actually mean by saying show all the subtotals at the bottom of every group. Then by default, it will actually show you the subtotals at the top of every group. So that's it. So this is what you go at the top of every group. So this is actually the group for the fruits, and this is actually the subtotal, and this is also the group for the vegetables, and that's also the subtotal up there. Now when it comes to the grand total, this is it. So still inside the design tab, we have the grand totals. So this is basically what we mean by the grand totals. Now in this point here, suppose you would actually want to identify the percentages of the grand total. That is the totals for the apples, which is actually 191,257. What percentage is this to the grand total? So the grand total is actually 102,97,34. So what percentage does this actually represent? That's actually for the apples. How about this one here? How about this? How about this? That's the percentage of the grand total. So how do we actually obtain the percentage of the grand total? That is this one here divided by the grand totals. How do we actually obtain that without using the formulas and the functions? Because you actually say that the pivot table is actually there so that it can enable you to do the work without involving the formulas and the functions. How can that be done? So before we actually check on that, I'll actually bring you to this point here, and inside this case you can actually check that I have some templates here. I'll actually be receiving the work for the templates on your end. So this one is actually a monthly retainer. I can receive the work for the templates from you. Then that's I design the templates, I manage, then I deliver the results. That's $50 every month. That's for the monthly retainer. And for the one-time task, so we have the ultimate business dashboard, $19. Personal finance and budget tracker templates, that's $12. Inventory management system templates, $17. AI powered reporting templates, $22. HR and payroll trackers, $19. Sales performance trackers, $15. You can actually check that the prices are fairly good. Down here, you will also check that I will be accepting the projects from your end. So for the monthly retainer, that's for the monthly subscription, cloud in Excel prompting, dashboards and charts, automation, pivot tables and models, Power BI, financial forecast, templates management, all this work. The subscription per month will be $550. For the one-time task, AI powered dashboard designs, $150. AI data analysis and insights, $200. AI automation and smart macros, $250. AI enhanced Power BI reports, $300. Prices fairly good. So that's it. So if you would like the data problems to be solved, then I will be your go-to person. So that's it. On top of this point here, you'll actually realize that I also do have some courses. So I have several courses from the beginner to the intermediate to advanced. So all these courses, you can access them on my Google Drive account at just $100. So my site is actually on hold, but it will be back very soon. And when it's actually back, you won't actually lose your access to the website. So $100 actually getting you a deal worth $945. You can imagine that. And this is actually one-time payment and lifetime access. So to actually reach me out for the courses, for the templates, and for the projects and many more, you can actually use this email here so that you can actually talk business. So let's now see how we can obtain the percentage of the grand total. So you come to this point here for the sum of amount, because you are actually working with the amount. We would actually want to see what percentage this one here represents. Yes, the percentage of the grand total. So you have to come to this point here, sum of amount. You click on it, then hit on value field settings. Then after clicking on it, we have what you call show values as. Then you click on this down arrow here, then hit on percentage of grand total. Click on percentage of grand total like that, then hit on OK. Now you can actually check that I have the percentages here. So for the apples actually represent 18.57% of the grand total. Bananas represent 33.05% of the grand total. Mangoes represent 5.54% of the grand total. Oranges represent 10.14% of the grand total. So if you sum all this one here, this group here for the fruits, it will actually get you 67.31%. Now let's come to this point here for the vegetables. So the beans actually represent 5.56% of the grand total. Broccoli actually represent 13.83% of the grand total. Carrots represent 13.30% of the grand total. So if you sum all this, it will actually get you the total for the group there, which is actually 32.69%. So if you sum the subtotal for the fruits, which is actually 67.31%, and 32.69%, you will get 100%. In short, if you sum all these items in the group for the fruits and also sum all these percentages in the group for the vegetables, you will actually get 100%. So basically, that's how you can deal with the subtotals, grand totals, and percentage of the grand totals. Now, at some point, you might actually want to have a space that's a blank space running in this point here so that it can actually show that this is a different group and this one also is a different group. Like you want just a blank cell running so that it can actually show you that there's a difference here. So this one is a different group and the other one is a different group. How do we actually do that? How do we actually introduce that blank row without us having to click on this point here to introduce it? So what you can actually do is get yourself into the design tab there. Inside the design tab, you have what you call layout group blank rows. Click on the blank rows and you'll actually check that in this point here, insert blank line after each item. So the wall of this group here is what you call an item and the wall of this one too is what you call an item. So insert the blank line and you will actually see what happens. Now you can actually check that this is an item and there's a blank line there or a blank row, and this one is also an item and we have a blank row there. So this one is actually very clear. It actually tells you that this one is group 1 and this one is group 2 and this is actually the grand totals. See you in part 7 of the pivot tables in the next video.